Ave Maris Stella.
Hello and welcome back to Vatican II in a Year. I am your host, Father Matthew Schneider, a priest of the Legionaries of Christ and a theology professor. This is a podcast on the StarQuest Production Network at sqpn.com. Today we're on day 353, recovering Gaudium Spes 77 on War is an Affliction. If you want to follow along, we have a reading plan and more details at sqpn.com/Vatican. Yesterday we spoke about how the Church and politics both seek the common good, but the Church needs independence to ensure she proclaims Jesus. Today we start the last chapter for this whole week-long program, year-long program, which is chapter 5, the fostering of peace and the promotion of a community of nations. The summary today is we need to seek peace beyond just no war. This last chapter is really dedicated to the importance of peace, and this is a prophetic voice of the Church. The Church has this duty of proclaiming prophetically the idea of peace. This is not to say there's no such thing as war. We admit that there is war, but the ideal is peace, and the Church wants to proclaim that, and so dedicates this last paragraph, last dozen or so days of this podcast to that topic. And so paragraph 77 today is kind of short. It has two subparagraphs. A, war causes hardships and we need to dedicate ourselves to peace. And then B is summarized, we are all called to be instruments of peace. So let's begin with 77A. In our generation, when men continue to be afflicted by acute hardships and anxieties arising from the ravages of war or the threat of it, the whole human family faces an hour of supreme crisis and is advanced towards maturity. Moving gradually together and everywhere more conscious already of its unity, this family cannot accomplish its task of constructing, for all men everywhere, a world more genuinely human, unless each person devotes himself to the cause of peace with renewed vigor. Thus it happens that the gospel message, which is in harmony with the loftier strivings and aspirations of the human race, takes on a new luster in our day as it declares that the artisans of peace are blessed because they will be called sons of God. Matthew 5:19. As you might realize, as you might have learned in Catholic teaching or whatever, there is just war in Catholic teaching. But what this document wants to remind us of is that peace is always the preference. We need to be seeking peace as the goal, as the preference. Now we look at peace, what do we mean? That last line is preceded by, blessed are the peacemakers. And then it comes, because they'll be called sons of God. Right? Matthew 5, the Beatitudes. So peace is very important. And peace here is going to be, first of all, no war, and that kind of understanding of peace. But we aren't going to be limited to that. We're going to talk about peace in a broader sense, peace among people, the kind of development, the growth of people in economic and other realms. And they begin by noting that there's been great hardships with war. Even though it was 20 years after World War II, Europe was just finally, in many ways, recovering from the devastation of that war. The people who were born in the 1940s and early 50s, to the early 50s, are noticeably shorter in places like Italy. Because, why? Because they were so ravaged in the war and then right afterwards that they got a low diet and they end up noticeably shorter. Now, obviously, the diet back in the day wasn't as good as today, so everyone is there, but you'll notice that the really old people who were born and grew up before World War I, before World War II, were larger, and then they had a shrinking thing because of that starvation. And that's how serious the situation was then. And we want to prevent this kind of suffering. We can see this today in different wars going on, like Sudan, South or Ukraine or places like that. And this is something we need to try and help with the Church. Now, obviously, the Church is not here like as a perfect solution for every situation. Like, I don't think the Church has like magic bullets going to stop, people who want to conquer neighboring countries from doing so. But it has the duty to proclaim peace, and that's what this chapter is going to do. We need to seek peace if we want to construct a more human world. Peace should also be something that helps man more fully. We link it to other aspects of this document. Peace, therefore, can be a source of blessing. Moving on to 77b, it talks about how we are all called to be instruments of peace. Let's read it. Consequently, as it points out the authentic and noble meaning of peace and condemns the frightfulness of war, the Council wishes passionately to summon Christians to cooperate, under the help of Christ, the author of peace, with all men in securing among themselves a peace based on justice and love, and in setting up the instruments of peace. We all need to seek peace is what this document is telling us. What the Council is telling us is we need to seek peace. And in seeking peace, sometimes we'll work with people we might not fully agree with. People of other nations, people of other religions, other philosophies, things like that. But if we want to create peace in the world, we often need to do that. And that's a good thing. We don't need to wait for everyone to become Catholic in order to seek peace. We can seek peace and then hope later on everyone becomes Catholic. Obviously, we need to work evangelization as well, but this chapter is focused on the aspect of peace. And it notes that once a peace is established a little bit, there needs to be structures to maintain that peace. And that's important too, not just, hey, we have a peace accord. Well, how is this peace accord going to be monitored and things like that? Thank you for listening to this episode of Vatican II in a Year. This is a listener-supported podcast, and you can donate to help StarCrest produce it and other great podcasts at sqpn.com/give. You can give one time, monthly, or join the StarQuest Patreon. Tomorrow we're going to continue with the next paragraph of Gaudium et Spes, paragraph 78 on peace is more than just no war. Please join us then to learn more about Vatican II, which can provide a blueprint for the Catholic Church. If you want more information, like playlists and a reading plan, go to sqpn.com/Vatican, frmatthewlc.com/Vatican, or Vatican SQPN on Facebook and X. Amen.